Action.
How I have changed since becoming a parent. So, now that I'm a parent of a 4-month-old baby, I think that my perspective on a lot of things has changed. And so I wanted to talk about that in regards to how it relates to the way that I run my business. And this is really interesting because I realize that most people who run a business and have children are either in one of two positions. They're always either struggling financially or they're doing extremely well. I usually don't meet anybody who's running a business who's like in the middle. They're on one end or the other. And so after seeing my wife kind of get through the last 40 days at her job, working from home, albeit, but trying to balance working from home and taking care of the baby, it sort of solidified in my mind the idea that it would be ideal for her to be able to be a full-time parent. And so, you know, this is a goal for not just this child, but hopefully, God willing, the next one and the next one, and if there are any more after that, you know. But I think realistically, we have room for 1 or 2 more kids. So this made me think of how I want to run my business, and one of the ways that I want to run my business is in a way where I'm actually making a profit, not where I'm struggling to make ends meet. And so I think some of my customers have done a great job making sure that I don't have to struggle to make ends meet because they always pay their bill and they pay it promptly. You know, as soon as they get an invoice, they don't complain about the car being a 30-year-old car and not everything being perfect. Instead, they actually, you know, say, hey, thanks, Pierre. You know, I know you put a lot of time into this car. You know, here's your money. So I know that recently, too, this has been a challenge because I raised my hourly rate. You know, if you recall, I put out a video where I stated that I raised my hourly rate to $118 an hour. Now, why is that? Well, number one, it's because I gave my staff a raise. I wanted them to know that they were appreciated. A lot of this raise, unfortunately, will get eaten up in taxes and inflation. So the raise was nothing more than a keep up with inflation raise because, you know, as soon as they raise the minimum wage here in Florida, we are going to see some inflation. That's what happens when you raise minimum wages. Am I against raising the minimum wage? No, not always, you know, but I know that there's going to be some inflation that has to be dealt with, so I might as well deal with it now instead of in September. The second reason is because I'm in a fortunate position where I feel like my shop is viable enough for my wife to stay at home and be a full-time mom. And so that's something she always wanted to do. And that's something that I always wanted her to be able to do. And so I guess being a parent now makes me want to work harder towards that goal. But it's also changed my personality a little bit. I used to be a lot more giving. I used to be extremely generous with my time. I used to be extremely generous with the discounts. I used to be extremely lax about, you know, when people pay me or whatever. And I think that after seeing the cost of having a child and the cost of, you know, the impending costs of raising a child and, you know, certain things like even our electricity bill has gone up because we have to run the house at a cooler temperature to make sure our child doesn't have SIDS, you know, or now that I'm paying for Elaine's health insurance and Madeline's health insurance, I have to make sure that I keep my costs covered. So I think the bottom line is this. If you're going to bring your car here and you don't want to pay $118 an hour for the 40, 50, 100 hours I put on your estimate, then you're not helping me be a good parent. Because I think a lot of terrible shops out there charge more per hour. And the truth is, considering how much I make, I mean, people always wonder how much of the pie do I get from that $118 an hour? Well, the truth is not much. Because there's something called business overhead that has to be kept up with. So for those of you that don't run a business, you know, the truth is that business overhead costs are insane. And one of those business overhead costs is called purchasing parts. And so when you purchase parts from suppliers, they can cost thousands of dollars. I mean, I have cars in my shop right now that have estimates on them of $10,000, and $5,000 of that money is parts, and that's got to come right out of my pocket, you know, or right out of our accounts, because the dealers aren't going to say, oh, we're going to wait for your customer to send a check, we'll hold the shipment. Nope, they don't want to do that. So, you know, parts are like an ever-rotating expense that you never catch up with. I get really frustrated because, you know, the keeping up with the parts expenses eats up a good chunk of my time. So when I get home at night, you know, or after hours, we'll say after hours, I spend at least 2 or 3 hours dealing with invoicing and stuff. And when sometimes I'll wake up at 2:30 or 3 in the morning and spend a couple of hours in front of my computer, again, doing more invoicing. And so I do feel an immense amount of passion towards the cars. I always have. And I've always felt that these cars are my calling. But at the same time, the more important thing right now is that I have to provide for my family. So if you want access to my passion and my enthusiasm, that's how much it's going to cost, you know. And I'm always listening for customers who try to negotiate a bill, who always complain about what it costs. And, you know, I have a message for these customers. There are 30 more people waiting to take your place. So you'd better think wisely about when you try to negotiate. You don't negotiate with your doctor or your plumber, or you don't negotiate with the grocery store about the cost of grocery stores, or your dentist about the cost of cleaning your teeth. You shouldn't negotiate with your mechanic either, because your mechanic is the person who keeps your car on the road. And if you want a pleasure car and you live in a $450,000 house or a $600,000 house and take lavish vacations with your family, you may want to think, can I actually afford this car? You know, because most of us are not here to negotiate. You can't negotiate with anybody who does good work. Only people, I realize something, only people who do crappy work really want to negotiate, because they know that you're going to call them later and say, hey, your work sucks, and they stop answering the phone. Anyway, if you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm actually probably going to turn comments off for this video because I don't want any advice from people. I just don't like advice. It doesn't work very well. The best advice I've ever gotten is get to work. And that's kind of how I am about it. So anyway, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's see your thumbs up, I guess. And if you dislike this video, well then, too bad. You know, sorry. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.